Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we have our top 10 most played games of all time when you look at it from hours played. Now, this list runs from when I first started tracking games back in 2014 time frame, all the way up until October 31st. So I was hoping to get this list out in November, never quite got it filmed, but we're going to do it now. Now, in my time playing or recording my plays, I have 2,174 plays of 285 different games with, it's approximately 1,910 hours of playtime, which averages out to about 52 minutes per play. And I also have an H index currently of 23, which means I've played at least 23 different games 23 times. So also over the course of the past year, there was about 282 hours of playtime. So a pretty good chunk of time there to kind of add into this list. So we'll see where everything lands. Now, before we get to the list, I do want to mention our sponsor, StoneValleyGames.com. This is your friendly distant game store. They have a great selection of games over there, all kinds of stuff, lots of stuff that you'll probably see on this list here in just a moment. Go check out StoneValleyGames.com. There's a link in the description below. They have a loyalty program for return customers. And if you're in the military and you're overseas with an AA, AE, or AP address, they'll ship to you for free. So go check out StoneValleyGames.com right now. Like I said, there is a link in the description below. All right, so this list we are going to do by the minute. So this will be a 10-minute list starting now. All right, so number 10 is Star Wars Imperial Assault. Now, this is actually one I haven't played in quite a while, but I do have 34 hours of playtime on this one. This is a campaign game where you don't play as any of the big name Star Wars characters. These are all characters that I believe were made for the game, but you're playing through a campaign. I like playing the campaign with the app, the cooperative app that came out after the fact. And that lets the Imperial forces are controlled by the app, and then all the players are on the same team. And you're going through this campaign. You're upgrading your characters, learning new skills, getting new weapons. Every now and then, characters you do know from the movies will show up and not necessarily be controlled directly by you. Sometimes Darth Vader shows up. Sometimes Luke Skywalker shows up. Lots of cool stuff that can happen. That's Star Wars Imperial Assault. Number 9 is Pandemic, just regular Pandemic with 35 hours of playtime. This is one of the original cooperative games to make cooperative games popular, I should say. There were cooperative games before this, but this is one of the ones that really brought them to the forefront, and I would say helped drive their popularity. You're going through you got a map of the planet, and there's 4 diseases rampaging through the world, and then you are trying to find the cure for each of them. If you can eradicate them too, bonus, but you don't have to do that. You got to find the cures for each of them. And you do this by playing. It's basically a set collection game. You're trying to match up colors of cards. You're going to different cities, building research centers. Each of your characters has their own special powers, and so you're trying to find the synergy there depending on which characters you end up playing with. That's Pandemic. Now, the next one, closely related with 42 hours, is Pandemic Legacy Season 1. This takes the Pandemic system, puts a legacy rule set on top of it. So you're making permanent changes to the board, permanent irreversible changes. If a character dies, you rip up their card, never use them again. If sometimes you can do things that'll make you rip up city cards. You're going to be unlocking all kinds of stuff. There's lots of different boxes and envelopes to unlock. Lots of cool stuff that happens in this one. I don't want to get into it too much. Because there's a story. There's actually a storyline that you follow and everything. And as you go through it, you're seeing different plot twists, and you play anywhere from 12 to 24 games because you're playing through a year. And if you lose a month, you can play it one more time and try to beat the month the second time. But that's Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Number 7 is Dead of Winter with 50 hours of playtime. This is a zombie survival game. Each player takes on a group of survivors, so you're kind of like your own little factions within a colony of survivors, and you're going to be going out to different locations in town, searching for equipment, food, weapons, all that kind of stuff, fuel. You're going to have different crises every round that you have to deal with. Otherwise, things start to get really bad really fast. If your morale track drops to 0, you lose. If you run out of time and you haven't completed the main objective, you lose. And there might be a traitor in your midst. And each of you has your own secret objective that you're trying to fulfill that sometimes might make you appear to be a traitor because you're having to be a little bit more selfish with certain stuff than you normally would be. And then you got to deal with the zombies. It's a really fun game. I introduced it to my game group recently, and now I actually just had it requested the other night, which is really cool because it had probably been, prior to my game group getting a hold of it, it had probably been a couple years since I had played it. Number 6, speaking of a game that's been a couple years, is Thunderstone Advance with 52 hours of playtime. This was one of the first games I ever got. I really should pull this back off the shelf and show it to my game group. It'll never leave my collection. I've got Thunderstone Advance, Worlds Collide, and then Numenera all mixed in there together. This is a deck builder where you've got monsters that come across the top of the board, and you've got a shop that you can go. So you can either go to town or you can go to the dungeon. If you go to town, you can buy new cards, put them into your deck. If you go to the dungeon, you're going to try to kill one of the monsters that's there. If you kill a monster, it ends up going in your deck as well. Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it just clogs your deck up. And there's lots of different stuff going on there. The whole idea is at the end of the game, whoever has collected the most victory points is going to be the winner. Kind of the hero that helped the most, I guess, is what it is. That's Thunderstone Advance. Number 5 is Tainted Grail with 55 hours of playtime. This is one I think my group and I will probably start playing pretty soon. We'll see. We're trying to decide. We're going to start alternating game nights with two different campaign games. This is a fantastic one with it's a dark retelling, or not retelling, it's a dark take on King Arthur's legend, except it takes place like 500 years after King Arthur's already dead. And Avalon is having a real hard time with this stuff called the weirdness that keeps encroaching, and you're trying to push it back and trying to figure out what in the world's going on. And all the heroes have either died or disappeared, and all that's left is the D Squad. And you guys are not hero material, but you're all that's left, and you're going through trying to save the land, save the people. It's a really fun game with a really interesting combat mechanism that I really like a lot. I think it's a really unique and fun way of doing combat. That's Tainted Grail. Number 4 is Mage Knight with 59 hours of playtime. This is, for many people, the quintessential solo board game. Can play up to 4 players. I would never do that. I'm going to try it with 3 eventually with my game group. 2 players is a lot of fun too. But Mage Knight, it's got a little bit of a deck building element to it, but I would never call it a deck builder. You play through usually about 6 rounds, and at the end of that, at the end of the 6th round, depending on if you've successfully completed the goal, will depend on what your score is, all this kind of stuff. And the main mission, the one most people play, you're just trying to find these 2 cities and conquer them. You're this Mage Knight wandering through the land, collecting different, hiring mercenaries and stuff like that to help, getting spells and artifacts and stuff. And it all goes into your deck. And you go through your deck once a day. So you make it all the way through your deck in a day. And then you go back to, you shuffle back up. There's a day-night thing. Lots of cool stuff in Mage Knight. Number 3 is Madara with 68 hours. I actually got 35 hours of playtime for this one over the past year. And that's because this is the campaign my group and I are currently working our way through. Madara has a huge campaign book, like 500 pages. We're about a fourth of the way through it right now. And you're playing through this story. It's like playing through a anime novel or something. And it's this weird fantasy world where there's like stuff from our world, and they talk about how they came from Earth, but it's definitely not Earth, and everybody develops powers when they get to this world, and you are developing your hero's powers from the ground up. There's no like preset archetypes for the characters or anything. You're setting it up how you want that character to be. Really, really interesting. That's Madar. Number 2 is Gloomhaven with 84 hours. I got 28 hours of playtime for this one over the past year. Gloomhaven, it's actually set up on my table right behind the camera right now. This is a fantastic game. Frosthaven, the sequel, is coming out that improves everything. So I'm trying to push through the Gloomhaven campaign now because I love it so much, and I just have always gotten distracted by other things. Tons of unlockable character classes inside of it. The card play is really cool because you start with a full hand of cards at the beginning of the game, and then you play 2 cards every round. Top action of one card, bottom action of the other card. The cards have your initiative on them. The enemies all have their own initiative. So much going. You buy items and stuff. You find treasure while you're playing. There's just so much you can do in this game. And I've only unlocked a third of the character classes. I'm about to unlock a new one, I think soon. We'll see. Number 1 is Kingdom Death Monster with 204 hours of playtime. Got 22 hours of playtime this past year. That was the previous campaign we were working through with my game group. I mean, anybody who's watched my channel knows that how much I love this game, how much time I've spent playing it on the channel, off the channel. It's a dark, oppressive world where you wake up and you can't even talk, and then you learn speech, and you have to fight this lion right away. And then there's all these other horrific monsters and you're building a settlement. There's like a civ building aspect to the game because you have to build the settlement, develop technologies called innovations, and you make your weapons and armor from the bones and body parts of the monsters you fight. There's just so much going on here. There's this, you get bits and pieces of this overarching story that slowly unveils itself as you go along, combined with all these random events as well that also have bits and pieces of the story in there. So there's just so much going on there. And the combat system is really cool because the monsters have an AI deck that when you draw a card, it tells you what the monster does. But also when you wound the monster, you remove cards from that AI deck, so the monster can do fewer and fewer things the more you hurt it. Very cool. Kingdom Death Monster, number 1 with 204 hours of playtime. Be sure to come back and check out all kinds of new stuff coming up. We have an instructional video for Perdition's, or instructional series beginning. It's a 3-part series for Perdition's Mouth. We've got Nemo's War coming up at some time in the future. We've got 1815 Scum of the Earth. We've got Australia. Lots of great stuff. And until next time, if you're bored online, bored offline.